Greetings, brothers and sisters. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum ad nastana. My lighter's not working for some reason today. In today's segment of Points of Light Radio, I'm going to be bringing you the second installment of a conversation that I had with a gentleman named Demetrius Feaster. You may recall him when he talked about the history of the Grand United Order of Oddfellows in his area, and he's recently brought the lodge back to his community. And let's hear what he has to say about the progress he's making and what the Grand United Order of Oddfellows means to him. I'm going to finish lighting my cigar here, and we'll move forward together. Trim your lamps, brothers and sisters. Follow me. Mr. Feaster, welcome to Points of Light Radio.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Now, you are with the Grand United Order of Oddfellows in Georgia, I believe it is. So why don't you tell my listeners and viewers about yourself?
All right, so I'm actually the current district grand master for the Grand United Order of Oddfellows jurisdiction of Georgia. And we're jurisdiction number 18. And we reconstituted the first lodge, which is St. James, 1455, and where I am the noble grand. And I'm part of that order. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Here.
All right. Now, you say you're one of the things I find interesting is you were the current assistant grand historian.
Right.
So what are your duties there, and what have you learned, shall we say, about the order and about your lodges down there?
So, in the Grand United Order of Oddfellows, as the assistant grand historian, the grand historian is his name is Emmanuel Page, and he is a prominent person within the order. And if you get a chance to go to Instagram, you can go to the Godfather, the Oddfather. I'm sorry, and the Oddfather is one of the older creators, if you will, of in the Oddfellows fraternity that talks about the history of African American fraternalism via the Oddfellows fraternity. And being that I'm a filmmaker, I'm in the we do documentaries. I travel a lot. They've seen my work that I've done in other organizations, and then they asked me to come in and put together some stuff. So the part of the historian aspect of it is myself and one other. It's myself, Brother Page, and one other person I haven't met, but they've been assigned to it. So we are retelling the stories. We've come up with our own way. I'm sure that everybody else does it. When you're doing research in reference to looking at fraternities that have such an illustrious background, such as the Oddfellows. So we're telling our narratives. We're doing our research, extensive research. We find a name and we go into it and start looking at it, and then we publish it. We just self-publish it through social media, through tagging people, African American organizations that preserve the history, and then teach that. So that's part of it too. And we're partnershiping with other historical societies, that I believe that we're working on. At least what the chairman is actually working on himself, and I'm working on narrative storytelling for it too as well. Not to be too complicated, but that's what I'm doing with the historian aspect of it.
Well, what are you learning about it? Are you learning that when you, as you're studying this, what are you learning? Are you learning, shall we say, it has a much larger history, shall we say, than you knew before or that most people know of?
So what's really interesting, and I'm going to use Atlanta as a as what's most important about this conversation. So in Atlanta, there is, just like most black cities in America, or a lot of them, and we're developing and discovering commonalities within the history of what we're doing. Um, the the Odd Fellows here in Georgia with Auburn Avenue, they did some really legendary stuff as far as financing, as far as collective economics, and then establishing um, a wealth that would allow for the people to have something that they can leave for their family. And so getting into that, we start to find some of the earlier um, millionaires, first black millionaires in America,
Mm-hmm.
first successful entrepreneurs in their field. We can see demonstrated that their effort for collective economics via a fraternal structure worked so well that they were able to build a city street during that time when they started basically building Auburn Avenue. Um, that was the first black fraternity in Atlanta, which was the Oddfellows. And
So even
and
sorry, so even before Prince Hall Freemasonry, there was a
absolutely,
wow. Okay.
absolutely. Look, it's gonna get more deeper than that too. So, and I'm kind of loosely remembering some of this stuff too because I've read a lot and I dug my face into it. See, so the Prince Hall Masons came to Atlanta in 1937,
Oh,
and then the Grand United Order of Odd Fellows existed in Atlanta, but they existed in smaller places. But their footprint, and which is the most important thing, just like how the Prince Hall Masons built a building. Well, the Grand United built one that was a city block. Big. It
wow.
was like at least 5 or 6 times bigger than the Prince Hall Grand Lodge. It's huge. It still is huge. Um, and they moved into the city and started buying properties on Auburn Avenue, not because they wanted to, because they were relegated to. They were only allowed to purchase land within a 1 mile strip. And it was before it was even zoned commercial. So a whole bunch of black people basically got together, bought some land, and before anybody really knew it, I mean, like this sounds crazy. Before anybody really knew it, there was a black organization in Atlanta that all of a sudden owned most of Auburn Avenue. Um, and it's because they all use the collective economics of bringing, pooling your money together, and we're all going to go buy that property, and then use that property as collateral for this property. So it got really extensive. We even see the demise and why the order uh, basically went under. It took a long time, but it did. And like I said, 1937 for Prince Hall, and the Grand United was 1912 and 1914, respectively, for their actual Grand Lodge building. But before that, the organization was already here. And there were so many black people who were already voting in that district where that area was, that the white counterparts or people would come not asking for the vote, but asking for the influence because of the power that they had.
Okay.
And then there was a whole they had to divide I know I'm jumping around, but there was even a possible war because when slavery ended in 1865 on paper, um, it was still pockets of people who were still practicing slavery, and around America. And one of the places here was here in America, I mean in Georgia, but it was still it started to spread out. So later towards the end of the 1800s, as the Odd Fellows started to grow, the fraternal societies became more prevalent. It became the internet of its time,
Yeah.
for at least for Black people, and that's how we communicated. Um, the National Guard. I remember one story about the National Guard, or not the National Guard. The military had to be called in to calm racial tensions because at the time everything was moving so fast. And then we had the first pandemic that we had written, that's been written down in America, basically, and that was the start of the demise of the Grand United here in Georgia, because they are it was a mutual aid, and they leaned way too heavy into insurance.
Oh.
So if you ever get a chance, and I remember this as a kid, and stop me if I'm talking too much because I do that, because I love the order. Um, the If you ever get a chance, you ever want to do some research on to see what an Odd Fellow has done. There was a organization called Atlanta Life Insurance. Now these are one of the many uh, businesses that were owned by members of the Grand United. Now, Atlanta Life Insurance was basically the heavy backing and lifting mechanism for the financing of a lot of things. You weren't allowed to get a business loan from a traditional bank because of the color of your skin. So you just go and you would ask the Odd Fellows, and being that it's a mutual aid organization, they would find a way. They would either train you, you would have to join, especially if you were going to join and then and then you need a business, then you would rent inside the building and it just take care of you. It sounds like nepotism because it was. Black people didn't invent it, but
Yeah.
they definitely learned it.
Mhm.
And it was something that was needed at the time so that they could have, that's how these businesses got funded. We were funding ourselves. Um, but long story short, the overextension of that, uh, of yielding out too much money, and then a pandemic coming along, and then you have whole lodges that are getting sick and dying with the Spanish flu. Like people are wiped out, being decimated. Because remember now, it's a social organization, so people around about the same age. So, like, if it's 100 of us and we're all like between 30 and 50, but what if it's 20,000 people between the ages of 30 and 50? And then 2,000 people are dying, I don't know, a month or something crazy. And then there was evidence of not being able to pay back death benefits because of the overwhelming amounts of death and the overextension. Um, it sounded to me, this is my personal belief, like they tried to help everyone of color because it was impossible to get a commercial loan, like almost impossible. The only other way you could get a commercial loan during that time is if you looked like a Caucasian. So
Yeah.
that was a whole, like when you get into the Grand United, as far as the research, you're going to come across all forms of the different variant colors of the Black man and woman, and you'll see people who are in other organizations, say, let's say Masonic, and they're in a Prince Hall organization, and you look at them, it's like you would never know in the picture that they are Black people, but just the way that their past has, and they don't identify. Maybe they did, I don't know, but they were able to obtain. Um, Man, there's so many more stories we've come across.
Yeah.
And I don't want to dominate just talking about
It's a
it.
segment all of itself, really, in
Yeah.
many ways.
Yes,
But
yes, just that in itself is fascinating, and
go ahead.
it's overwhelming to know that, me being young and getting where I'm at. I'm 52 now, and being a businessman, doing stuff, traveling, and all of that, and then but I don't have somebody actively wanting to do atrocious things to me, and then write about it in paper.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So, but I'm still the same kind of person, which is a businessman. I'm well educated.
yeah,
I do business. I have a family. These are the same elements that the original Grand United people were, um, when they were creating the Odd Fellows here in Georgia. So we also to wrap that part up, the last active lodge I've kind of come across myself. I forget. I think it's like Rising Sun. I forget the name. But that was the last active Oddfellows Lodge from the original era, which was in 1992. And so they met there. Hundreds of lodges met in the Grand United building. The building, when that lodge closed, it got bought by somebody else and then another company. And right now, a private equity company manages it right now for a restoration service. So they got a huge $10 million grant, I want to say. Like, and it's not even owned by an African American anything. I don't even know who it's owned by. It's that's another story too. Um, but they're supposed to be restoring it to its natural luster, and I think that's kind of funny because they didn't reach out to anyone in the Grand United. Like, how are you restoring a Grand Lodge that had symbols and stuff in it? Are you just going to Google this and AI it? Um, so it still has the same energy that it was built in, and I'm gonna land with this: the energy of the time of those people, those African American people at those time, were going through wild things unimaginable. But yet they built something that was $500,000 or almost 600,000, which is like $20 million. I mean, the scale of the building today is millions, and where it's at, it's prime property. Um, and so that same energy today, now you have, it's not owned by them, and it was back and forth between people, and um, but it's deep, and I'm passionate about the Odd Fellows, as you
yeah.
can tell.
But you're also, when you talk about the restoration, you're on the restoration committee now. What are your plans there? Like,
Ah, yeah. So I can't really go too deep, but one of the things about the Restoration Committee is that so the Odd Fellows has an inside of their list, the Grand United has what's called 10 standing committees. I don't know them by heart, but it'd be transportation, mutual aid, blah blah blah. It's been like 10 standing committees since, I want to say, like 18, like 90 something. And then here recently, within the last 2 months, the Grand Master um, met with a few other district grandmasters, and they met in Philadelphia, and they allowed our restoration committee to be the 11th standing committee. So for the rest of eternity, that's in our doctrine, in our books, it's going to update it, and our names will be within that as that founding thing. Now, what is the Restoration Committee? It is the restorative effort of us educating people nationally, being that it's a united order, and it has branches in West Africa, Europe, America, South America, the Caribbean. Um,
I think you
I
even
think
have a
it's
lodge up here in Canada,
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I think there's a lodge up there in Canada.
Toronto, I
Yeah,
believe so.
yes, yes, yes. And I've never met those guys though. Um, but yeah, so and being that is we have a campaign that we're working on, and I'll definitely reach out to you some more once when we get it all nailed in. But one of the major things is an educational program. And like I said, I'm a filmmaker. I have a degree in filmmaking. Is making the people aware of what our efforts are of the fraternity. So if you like Black history, or if it even just um, interests you in any way, shape, or form, then the best thing you can do is tap into what the Grand United is offering with our restoration committee, and we're talking about all of our past people and what those people have done in the communities around America. You know, and the particulars of how we're going to do it, we're gonna tell everybody, but we just want to make sure that we can roll it out. And I hope I didn't say too much.
Oh, that's okay. Now,
Yeah.
your home lodge, you sounded like you said your home lodge had gone dormant or something. And
Yes.
where exactly is it and what's it called?
So my home lodge is St. James 1455, right? And when I was talking about dormant, I meant the entire Grand Lodge of Georgia basically fell um, after the first pandemic, and it never fully recovered because they expelled the Grand Master and they expelled the Grand Secretary. And those are the two people who moved the equivalent of millions of dollars and purchased land. They bought properties way out. They bought a bunch of stuff. Money was coming in a lot. So once when it felt like it was earlier greed. This is not maybe the prevention of greed as well as the interference from the nationals at the time. Now this is the beginning of the 1900s. Um, when there was a pandemic as well as the Great Depression.
Yeah.
So, you know, everybody was all races. Everyone was doing very bad on this planet because of the Great Depression and that time. So from that, it was a downward spiral until the 90s. So it made it to the 90s and the order died completely. Then St. James, 13 of us got together because one of us knew somebody that knew somebody else who was in the order, and we Googled it. And the irony for me is um, my grandmother, my mother's mom, gave me, no, she had passed. Her sister, my aunt, gave me her ritual, which is the Household of Ruth. And from that organization. So unbeknownst to me, joined the Masons in the 90s, thinking I was going to find out what this is, and I never did. So from 97 until 2018, I had a quiet, secret journey that
Mm-hmm.
connected me. And we did our research and we found out the first Odd Fellows Lodge in Georgia was St. James 1455. And that was founded in 18, I want to say 1867, 60, something like that, like right after slavery. So that was very brilliant people who were already lying, basically. I mean, this is the truth. They were already lying about whatever they were because you had to lie as being Black. Do you know where he is? No, I don't know where he is. And you know where he is. He's in the basement underneath your house. You're lying. You're lying. So, and that's good. You had to do that. So, and that was founded, and so that was and it was the biggest lodge. It was the lodge that had the most people coming into it. Um, I think when they first, if I read correctly, when they first founded the first lodge back in the 1800s, it was about 100 people. And then the next report that they came around when because it was like a year, and then two more lodges were founded on the same day, and that's activated their Grand Lodge. But that was like the next year. And so what we did was we founded St. James in 2018 and brought it back. And with the Grand United, it's very easy. It's complicated a little bit, but it's easy. It's easy for me to activate a charter of a lodge that already exists. Why? Than it is for me to get a new number. Why? It's because in all of our lodges have whatever name and a number, and the number is issued from England, right?
Oh,
So we can't just make up something and just go with it. We actually have to go to the committee of management, make up a number, and they have to talk they have to meet about the number and why we're adding another number to the spectrum of the Odd Fellows numbering thing. So if you ever come across a Grand United, those number with the numbers are lower, of course, those are very old numbers. When you get into like the tens, like over 10, like 9 is cool, but like over 10, those are usually like in Africa or in other countries because you could see the time frame when these numbers started coming in. And so I was 1400, so that means we were somewhere in the 1800s. We're 1455. So if you see 14s, 20s, 3000s, 4000s, fives, those are usually 1800s, very early 1900s, around about that. So that's where we're at. And then and then we formed our Grand Lodge the next year. And the Grand Lodge consisted of St. James, Atlanta Lodge, and Pride of Georgia.
wow.
And then that was when I was elected. Well, we weren't elected. We were moving pretty rapidly. And so the committee of management allowed us to form everything. They really wanted Georgia back online because when I finally got to meet these older brothers who are the administrators of the Grand Lodge, they were telling us of the glory of the Odd Fellows. Now remember 92. Now I don't know how you are, but I vividly remember 92. Like I graduated high school in 92. Wu-Tang Clan came out, one of my favorite rap groups. I can remember all of the 92s. Well, these brothers are older than me. So they were adults and they were already doing fraternalism. They were already deep into it. So that means if they were doing that in the 90s, that means there's the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s that these guys who are now in their 70s and 80s and some even 90s who saw the height or it's not even the height because at this time it was still low, but it still was at least 100 lodges, 200 lodges here in Georgia in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And then towards the end of towards the 80s, it really started to decline because those brothers who were older than them started to pass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, but it's very interesting about the Grand United. I always say, because you're independent, right?
Go ahead.
Huh? You're independent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes. And you're also a Mason, right?
No, I'm not a Mason.
Oh, you're not. That's cool. So I always try to tell people that who are active Masons and anyone listening to this podcast that the Odd Fellows is its own thing. It's totally different. It is not like Freemasonry.
No.
And for us as Odd Fellows, or at least for the Grand United, I can speak from that, is the Grand United specifically is a fraternity as a for-use fraternity. It's like, how do you use the fraternity to mutually aid and benefit you, right? And it could be social, just being able to talk to people. You could use the fraternity just to learn how to speak to people, and ain't nobody's going to criticize you because that's your brother. You may not be able to talk in front of people, but you can practice that in the lodge. And there's many other aspects of it too, but you know what I mean. I could talk for hours for this.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I can see that you really you are very passionate. But
Yes, sir.
now, when you talk about the uniqueness of it, what are the qualifications to join the Grand United Order of Odd Fellows?
That's a great question. So, um, in America, the uh, only thing that you have to do is you have to be 18 You have to be referred by another brother, or asked, or whatever, or you can ask yourself. And you have to be a male,
Okay.
and but you don't have to be a U.S. citizen. It doesn't
Okay.
have any stipulations that I see that require, because it doesn't. The U.S. citizen thing in other orders is because I don't know why, but in this one you just got to be 18 and a man, and I'm sorry, and have a belief of a higher being, no
Yeah, the
particular
supreme
one.
being. Yeah.
Yeah, supreme being. Yes. So that's
But
basically it.
but here's the thing though too. Um, I understand one of the key differences between the Grand United Order of Odd Fellows and the Independent Order of Odd Fellows is the degrees. Now, I think there's 8 of them. I think in Grand United, isn't there?
Yeah, so there's 7 degrees, but there's also a gray degree that isn't practiced as much, or anymore actually. And that gray degree is supposed to be the degree between the seventh and your college lectures, and then you get into your past Grandmasters Council. College lectures are 3 different uh, lecture series for the pass into the um, past Grandmasters Council. So yeah, so and it gets into more of the elaborate labyrinth. And I looked at some of the independent symbols. I never really got into the ritual. I didn't get into that, but
Yeah.
I got into the some of the symbolism, because we do have similar um symbols that we do use, as well as the name Oddfellows. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, 7, and then a grade degree is 8. That isn't really even. It is a degree, but there's more to it. But it's funny that you said 8 though. No,
Yeah.
most people don't say 8. They always say 7.
Yeah. But
That's funny.
when does your lodge meet, and how long are the meetings usually?
So all right, so this is a new era. I love when people ask me this. This is the new era of fraternalism. So we are we meet every single week on Zoom.
Wow.
Every single week on Zoom, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. And then we get off at 9. I usually keep the hours around in there, and I usually talk. And what's happening with that is that has developed a camaraderie with all the people who want to practice odd fellowship. And I also am able to weed out the brothers who just join it to be in it.
Yeah.
So, because we need workers. So what we usually meet one time a month, and here recently we only meet when like in a traditional lodge setting, when we're making odd fellows, when we're doing the initiation, then we'll do all of that. And then we have a place where we meet that's pretty cheap. But for the most part, we don't have to do that because we meet every week. Any business that we have, since I'm one of the founders of the organization of here in Georgia, um, we already set it up so that we can move around, because we knew that we weren't going to have a place. So, like for the Odd Fellows, it's not like in Freemasonry. So Freemasonry it is the oldest fraternity on earth that's still functioning,
Mhm.
roughly. There's some other ones too. Um, but I'm just saying the most prominent and most well known. The second one is obviously the Odd Fellows.
Yeah.
And so it has a different structure as far as with Freemasons. It's been around a while. So you bought land earlier in the 1700s, 1800s, and now you perpetually have that land today. And so, like George Washington's Masonic Lodge, if you ever get a chance, just go and look. So you can see a building and a location that was built by a fraternity, and that lodge still exists even to today. It's a very old fraternal organization. Now, for us, we had that, but we had to start over from scratch. There are no ghost accounts. There's no land. All of that stuff got settled because we use the order as a business fraternity. So you know, in this diaspora of business, the spectrum of business, you got the positive and you got the negatives. You do very well, you have all this money, you do very bad, and it closes, your stuff gets sold off. So, and that's just business. That's really what happened through the course of it. So us now we meet every week, every Wednesday, and we do it differently. I always try to tell, like, if you're doing it independent, that works every week. It's a lot of work for the noble grand. That's me.
Yeah.
But I need these guys, and they come and they're on the. We talk. It's
But
like we're brothers.
do you find that the having these weekly meetings gives you better attendance at your actual in-person meetings, shall we say?
Yes, because every week we're we're talking about it. So we also do fellowships. So since it's in the name, we're really big on fellowshipping with our strangers and just each other. So some of us own properties or whatever, and whenever we get to the house, we come to the house and we have some beers, some food, we'll cook out, play music, and just talk and get to know each other. No business or anything, just really just sit down and talk. And then in that space and our settings, we're talking about the next. There's always the next. That's the key. What is our next initiation? When's our next fellowship? Those weekly meetings gives us the anticipation for us to be like, all right, we're going to fellowship this month at this place. We're going to meet here, blah, blah, blah. And then when we fellowship, we're talking about the initiation and we're bringing in our strangers. So the strangers come to our fellowship. And this one, we're approaching about 10 so far in our class of odd fellows. I mean, of strangers that want to become odd fellows. And so it's a process. We don't really rush it. We'll probably only do this will be our second Odd Fellows initiation this year. And it was up. Last year we did one time, and that was 8. And then before that, it was like 4. You know what I mean? It's varied.
And what do you find that Odd Fellowship has done for you personally?
Oh,
Like you're a Mason, but you're also an Odd Fellow. So what do you find it has done for you as a Odd Fellowship?
that's a great question. So, so Freemasonry is very much the inner journey of the inner man, and the Odd Fellows is a mutual aid community organization. So it would be the journey of the outer man.
Okay.
So because I've learned, and this may sound weird, but I've learned how to better increase my network.
Okay.
So the amount of people that I know, amount of how I connect with them, it has sharpened. My first fraternity was Freemasonry.
But
Yes, sir.
now, when you talk about the uniqueness of it, what are the qualifications to join the Grand United Order of Odd Fellows?
That's a great question. So, in America, the only thing that you have to do is you have to be 18. You have to be referred by another brother, or asked, or whatever, or you can ask yourself. And you have to be a male.
Okay.
And but you don't have to be a U.S. citizen. It doesn't have any stipulations that I see that require, because it doesn't. The U.S. citizen thing in other orders is because I don't know why, but in this one you just got to be 18 and a man. And I'm sorry, and have a belief of a higher being, no
Yeah, the
particular
supreme
one.
being. Yeah.
Yeah, supreme being. Yes. So that's basically it.
But here's the thing, though, too. I understand one of the key differences between the Grand United Order of Odd Fellows and the Independent Order of Odd Fellows is the degrees. Now, I think there's 8 of them, I think, in Grand United, isn't there?
Yeah, so there's 7 degrees, but there's also a gray degree that isn't practiced as much or anymore actually. And that gray degree is supposed to be the degree between the 7th and your college lectures. And then you get into your past Grandmasters Council. College lectures are 3 different uh, lecture series for the pass into the past Grandmasters Council. So yeah, so and it gets into more of the elaborate labyrinth. And I looked at some of the independent symbols. I never really got into the ritual. I didn't get into that, but
Yeah.
I got into the some of the symbolism because we do have similar um, symbols that we do use, as well as the name Oddfellows. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, 7, and then a grade degree is 8. That isn't really even. It is a degree, but there's more to it. But it's funny that you said 8, though. No, most people don't say 8. They always say 7.
Well, Mr. Feaster, I really appreciate your time tonight. I'd love to have you back and delve more into the history of not just the Grand United Order of Oddfellows, but also some of these other organizations.
But I do thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak on your platform.
Okay, thank you, sir. Wasn't that great having Demetrius Feaster back here, brothers and sisters? I love revisiting groups such as this one. And, you saw here today some of the things I really love about this organization is the degree structure of the Grand United Order of Oddfellows. Sounds like it has just a wonderful message, right? And I love how Mr. Feaster really articulates during this conversation what makes the Grand United Order of Oddfellows unique from Freemasonry, right? And also what belonging to this organization means to him on a personal level. He's so passionate about it, right? And that's something we really need, I believe, to raise awareness of, and it's part of what Points of Light Radio is here to do, is to raise that awareness of what our fraternal orders can really do for us on a personal level, right? And like I said, he did just that today, right? And I'd love to have him back here on Points of Light Radio. I really would. And, and will, in fact, I will have him back. I can promise you that. You will hear from him again, right? But unfortunately, this is all you're going to hear in this Points of Light Radio segment because I've got to move on here. I've got some other work. I've got a podcast work I have to do here. So before I go, I want to remind you, as always, this podcast is available on both YouTube and Spreaker. Please share, like, and subscribe when viewing Points of Light Radio on YouTube. Smash that like and subscribe button, right? Also, I want to draw your attention to that PayPal link in the details section of this segment. You can see that link. Everything you see here on Points of Light Radio is not sponsor driven, okay? So you can hit on that link. We will make a voluntary donation of Points of Light Radio. We will use that to move the podcast forward. You can follow Points of Light Radio on my Facebook page at facebook.com/Points of Light Radio. My Twitter handle is at PO Light Radio, or should I say X handle, right? My Bluesky handle is at polightradio.bsky.social. You can also see the link to my Spotify channel, as well as my Points of Light Radio store. Brothers and sisters, until we meet again, just step into the light.